are any government supply side policies are any government initiatives or projects that increase countries' production potential, right? And within this, we have talked about already three things, which includes the first one was, what was the first one? Discovery of natural resources. Then we talked about the second one, investment in human capital through education and healthcare. Then the third one was investment in infrastructure, right? And so on, right? What else can be a supply side policies? Then there can be some sector specific, right? Sector specific investments and initiatives. So that would include giving subsidies on, giving subsidies to special sectors which the government wants to promote, like agriculture, right? In Pakistan's case, a lot of people, especially, rural population of Pakistan is connected with agriculture sector. So it's really important to boost them. It's really important to boost them socially and economically, right? Sector specific initiatives, which would be initiatives like the sector specific initiatives like subsidies, labor training, what else? Right? And so on. To increase incentives, government could reduce income and corporation tax to encourage spending and investment. Exactly, tax holidays and things like that. Very good, right? Incentives for new firms, startups, right? All these things, incentive for new firms and startups, right? Very good. By giving them tax holidays and giving them, grants and subsidies and so on. Incentives for new businesses and startups, right? Is everyone clear on this? Okay, now this being said, students, right? Now this being said, we have completed our discussion about supply side policies. But before we end the class, let's quickly look at how we show supply side policies on the graph, right? Now this is very interesting to see that in the case of supply side policies, we are looking at the same macroeconomic graph. So on the y-axis, you will have general price level, like we did for fiscal and monetary policy. And on the x-axis, you will have real GDP on the x-axis, right? Now, downward sloping would be your normal aggregate demand like this. Upward sloping will be your aggregate supply like this. Where the two intersect, that will be your macroeconomic equilibrium. Where the two intersect, that will be your macroeconomic equilibrium with GPL on the y-axis and real GDP on the x-axis. Easy? Any confusion so far? Anything that's not clear? Right? Now, in this case, when a country's production potential increase, which of the two will shift? Which of the two will shift? Students, which of the two will shift? Just a second, why has this popped up? Right, so your aggregate supply will shift, yes or no? Aggregate supply will shift. No. Aggregate supply will shift, because think about that. In this case, there has been no change in the aggregate demand. None of the components of aggregate demand have changed, right? Instead, the government has increased the production potential of the economy, which means it is the production potential that is increased. So your aggregate supply, a country's aggregate supply will shift to the right, or that will increase. So it shifts rightwards, right? And you can see it for yourself. Now, when it shifts to the right, when the country's aggregate supply shifts to the right, what happens? As the result, the country's GDP increases. So GDP increases, x-axis, you're moving right on the x-axis, and you're moving down on the y-axis, which means your inflation is also controlled. Now, unlike fiscal and monetary policy, where higher GDP always results in higher inflation. I repeat myself. Unlike fiscal and monetary policy, where higher GDP always results in higher inflation, in this case, that is not true. With supply side policy, a country can achieve both objectives at the same time. With supply side policy, a country can achieve both of its objectives with the same, at the same time, of higher economic growth and lower inflation. How many of you understood this? country can achieve both higher GDP and low inflation at the same time. Is it making sense? Any confusion so far, students? Anything that's not clear? At the same time, right? So that is the thing. So this shows that supply side policies are better than fiscal and monetary policy. But what is the problem with supply side policies? Right? So if we have seen that supply side policies, ये किस किस को बात समझ में आई है? Firstly, tell me if you have understood this or not, because moving forward, there's no point if you haven't understood this, right? So what I was saying, you students, that in supply side policies, right? Very good, perfect, right? You are able to achieve both targets at the same time. We just looked at it, right? So macroeconomic aims was, there were two aims: higher economic growth rate and lower inflation. And it is only supply side policies where you can achieve both at the same time. In the previous two, which are demand side policies, fiscal and monetary, if you achieve one objective, the other objective is compromised. Basically, you're not able to achieve both simultaneously in demand side policies, but that is not the problem with supply side policies, which is a good thing. Very good, excellent. But then there's a small problem with supply side policies. That supply side policies, which you must have noticed while we were talking about this, is that they take more time to implement. These are not very simple policies. It's not just about changing tax rates. It's not just about changing the government spending. It's much more time consuming, right? Exactly. There's no opportunity cost. Yeah. But the problem with supply side policies are that they take much longer to be implemented. They take much longer to be implemented, and they have a longer cycle, so they can't be implemented very quickly. Is this making sense, students? So that is the only problem with supply side policies, right? So that's what you need to remember. Right. Sure. Sure. So sector specific initiatives, it just means that instead of, doing something that affects the entire country, sometimes in supply side policies, you're targeting specific sectors. You're targeting specific sectors above. Like I was giving you the example of agriculture. So in agriculture, government wants to give subsidies because that's a very important sector for Pakistan. A lot of Pakistan's rural population is affiliated with agriculture, and that is their main livelihood. So if farmers' incomes are low, then that would affect their livelihood, their well-being. So government might just be focusing on agriculture, giving them subsidies, giving training. You must have seen a lot of ads on national television where the government talks about, how you should grow your crops and blah 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 and all that stuff, right? Is making sense? So this is how you go about this. Is this clear, students? Okay, so for tomorrow, what I want you to do is that I want you to share your questions with me. But only those questions that you have problem with, right? Share those questions which you have problem with, and we will do those because there's no point in wasting time, especially with very few days left. We should only be targeting questions that you have a problem in rather than we trying to do everything, right? So that's the thing. You can just share it in the group and we will do those. We can do a case study, yeah. We can do a case study as well. And also share your essay questions so that we can also do those, right? We good on this, students? Right? Right. So students, I'll see you tomorrow at the usual time. Take care and have a good night. Right? Allah Hafiz. Right. We are done with unit 5. Yeah. Question. What question? Topic related question or what? Yeah. Ask me a question. Is it topic related or which one? Okay, okay. I'll answer that. Thank you very much. So I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Allah Hafiz.